Hi, my name is Ben Parker, and I'm the Director of Technology here at the Oklahoma Public School Resource Center. Today, I'm going to take you through a series of videos that will just show you how to get the most out of Google Quizzes. Google Quizzes is a new tool from Google that lets us use Google Forms to make self-grading quizzes. In the past, we've had to use third-party add-ons like Flubaroo to create these things, and now Google has baked it right in to Google Forms, and so we want to figure out how we can use that and take advantage of it and make our life easier, right? So I'm going to walk you through that in this series of videos. All right, so let's start with Google Quizzes. To create a Google quiz, I need to create a Google form. And to do that, I'm going to go to Drive. Now, to get to Drive, you just log into your Google account, and then you can come up in the top right-hand corner of your screen. There's this little Google Apps Navigator. It's this square made up of 9 little boxes. If you click on that, you can get to Drive. You open up Drive, you should get a view similar to this, except hopefully you have lots of files here because you're doing lots of great work. So in the top left-hand corner, I have the New button, and if I click on New, it gives me, I can do a new folder, new file upload, new folder upload, Docs, Sheets, Slides, which we're used to. But if I go to More, I can get Google Forms, and that's what I'm looking for. So I want to create a new Google form. I'm doing this in a shared folder, so it pops up a dialog for me that says, hey, do you want to share this with people? I'm going to say OK. If you're not doing it in a shared folder, you won't get that dialog box. And this is a Google form. I think we've probably seen these before. I mean, they used to look a little different, but this look has been around for a little while now. Google likes to change things and keep things moving and keep things current. So this is the current view of Google Forms. And in the top left-hand corner, you can see I have my name. So it says Untitled Form. I'm going to change that. I'm going to call this Google Quiz for Online Training. So I'm going to click out of that. You can see once I've named it, it pulls the name down here and puts it at the top. And then up at the top right-hand corner, there's some icons up here, and we're going to get into these here in a minute. And I don't want to really jump into all of this right now. I just want to talk about building the quiz, and then let's get into the settings so we can explain some things. So by default, whenever I enter into a Google form, you can see it's set into 2 spaces here. So questions and responses. So this is where I'm going to see responses. This is where my questions live. I've got the title. I can put in a description. I can say, this is a quiz for my online training video. You don't have to put in a description, but you can. And then by default, I get one question that's populated here, and it is multiple choice. Now, if you're going to use a Google quiz, it needs to be multiple choice questions. So this is good. By default, this is set how we want it. So I'm going to go ahead and start building my quiz. So typically, as a teacher, you might have a multiple choice worksheet or quiz or benchmark that you've been using, and so you're going to look off of that. I don't have that, and so I'm just going to build a nonsense quiz. And so I'm hoping that you'll just follow along with me, but I'm going to put in my first question. My first question is, what's the best place to eat in Oklahoma City? Oops, if I could type. So I can put in my question, and then I start putting in my answers. So I can say things like, Waffle Champion, or, Blue Garden, or I'm a big fan of Ted's, and there are a million great places. Always have to put something that's an obvious no, so we'll put McDonald's. So we have 4 options here. And before I move on and create another question, you can see as I type in my question, it gives me places to add options. I can keep adding options. Over on the right-hand side, I get a couple. As I hover over here, I get an icon that's an image. I can attach an image to an answer. So you can actually use images for answers, which is pretty cool, or attach an image to a set of wording for an answer. And then right here next to it, I get the X that sits there. So if I want to remove an option, I can remove that option here. I could just delete, let's say I didn't want to include McDonald's anymore. I could click that out and go, what is another great place to eat in Oklahoma City? And so I'll just add Cheesecake Factory because it's one of my kids' favorites. So I put that in there. You can see out on the left-hand side, I get these little dots too, and I can click and rearrange the order of these if I want to do that. Completely fine. So that's kind of the layout and how that works. Down here at the bottom, I have some things at the bottom of my questions here. And so you can see I have the duplicate button, which we're going to get to here in a minute. I have a trash can, so I can delete this question. And then the next one is a toggle switch, and it says required next to it. And if I click that, it's going to make this question required. So that means that if a student is taking my test, they have to answer this question before they submit. They can't skip it or get around it or not answer just this one question. They've got to answer everything. They've got to try, right? So I always mark them required. And then over here in the bottom right-hand corner, I get 3 little dots. And if I click on those, you can see it says, show me the description. I can go to a section based on the answer, which is something we're not going to do. But if you want to learn about that, I've got videos coming on that one. I can also shuffle the option order. So I'm going to choose that, shuffle the option order. What that's going to do is when I load this test, or my students load the test, if they're sitting in a lab next to each other, or if they're sitting in my classroom on a Chromebook or a device of some sort, as it pulls up, these aren't going to be in the same order for everybody. It's going to randomize them, which is going to make this easier for you to do with your students. You don't feel like they can look off of each other and pick, oh, for this question you picked the second one down. Well, second one down is different for each person, and so depending on how it loads. So it's going to go ahead and shuffle that. So now that I've set this to shuffle and I've set it to be required, I can go ahead and duplicate this question. So I'm going to duplicate it, and then I'm going to say, what's the best movie of all time? Super easy, right? No opinions here probably, but I'm going to say The Godfather. I'll say Hoosiers because that's another one of my favorites. We'll say Citizen Kane, and then we'll say Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. I know, really great, right? So now I have 4 options here, and you can see when I duplicated this question, this is still required, and if I click here, it's going to still shuffle the option order. And so as I come down here, shuffle option order, I can come down here, make sure that that is still selected here. So I've got that. Required, shuffle option order. Now I can duplicate this question. And so you see it's required. I'm going to go down here, shuffle option order is checked. That's all good. So we don't have to worry about doing that over and over again. That's why we set it on the first question and then start duplicating. So now I can ask another question. So I'll start with who's the best player in the NBA? And so we're going to say option 1, not Kevin Durant. We'll say number 2 is Russell Westbrook. 3, we'll say LeBron James. And number 4, we'll say Kyrie Irving because a Warrior doesn't deserve to be on this list. And actually, I'm going to move Russell up because it's about who's good, right? So we'll put him there. So Russell, not Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Kyrie Irving. Now, I have 3 questions. I want to go ahead and add 2 more. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this again. Once again, you'll see my settings all stay the same. So I'm just going to come back down here now and say, I feel like this is a required question in Oklahoma anyway, Sooners or Cowboys. Typically, everybody's got an opinion. So Sooners, Cowboys. We'll put in the obligatory I don't care, because some of you probably just don't care. Or you can say not Texas, which is also a fair answer. So put in not Texas, have that added. And you see it's marked required and everything. So now I have 4 questions. And so I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this again, 1 more, and we'll say best book of all time. And so I'll fill these out. with some options here. So say To Kill a Mockingbird, and maybe Harry Potter. We'll say The Quiet Game. I love Greg Iles, and then I'll also we'll say Black Ice, which is a Harry Connolly novel. It's a Bosch, so one of my favorite books. So I don't know if they're the best books of all time, but they're books I like. So here we go. I've got now 5 questions set up, and that's good enough for me. And you can see over here on the right-hand side, I do have the ability to add questions in this way. I can also add an image in. So if I add an image, it's going to allow me to put just an image in. So if I did want to include a map, I could say, hey, look at this map, answer these questions, look at this image, answer these questions. I could insert a YouTube video at the top, and they could watch the video, answer the questions. So those options are there for you. So now I can come up here to the top right-hand corner, and I can click the preview button right here, the preview icon, and if I click on that, okay, well now I can see what my test looks like. Best place to eat in Oklahoma City, best movie of all time, who's the best player in the NBA, Sooners or Cowboys, best book of all time, but there's no place for them to tell me who they are, no way for them to put their name on their quiz or their paper. So we need to go back and add that. So over here on the right-hand side, I'm just going to click on this plus button. This little dialog box get away, this plus button, I'm going to add a question. And I'm going to change it from multiple choice to a short answer. And the question is just going to be name, and I'm going to make it required. And you can see there's this handle at the top of the question where I can drag these questions around. I'm just going to drag this all the way up to the top. So know that you can drag the order of your questions around if you wanted to. And then I'm going to go ahead and select this name one and duplicate it and call this email. And that's required as well. And so now, if I hit preview, I've got a quiz that makes them type their name, their email address, and then it gives me the questions. So now I can identify my students. I've got all that together, but now I still have to make it a quiz. So in the top right-hand corner, where there's this little cogwheel right here, we're going to click on that. So now that we've clicked on that, we need to go through and check settings. So by default, it automatically says restrict this to Oklahoma Public School Resource Center users. Yours will say your school name, so restrict to Watauga Public Schools, Chickasha Public Schools. It's going to say restrict to those users. I uncheck this, and let me tell you why. Google will automatically, if that's checked, it will automatically pull in the name of the user who took the quiz. But let's say a student was in a computer lab and logged in and then didn't log out, and another student came in and managed to find your quiz without logging in as themselves, and now they're taking the quiz as another person. Sometimes, especially if your kids get devices, Chromebooks, they end up with a buddy's Chromebook and they're logged in as their friend and not themselves, and so they're taking that quiz as someone else. It can get confusing sometimes, so I just always uncheck that. I don't like to leave that checked. I have options down here below, edit after submit, see summary, charts, and text responses. I don't show any of that to respondents. Now, I can go to presentation, and there's some things I want to do here. I can show the link to submit another response. And so I'm going to uncheck that because I don't want them to be able to submit another response. And I can even down here put in, please, be still and read chapter 2 in your book, right? And so maybe that's the instructions for them for after they finish. This is a message that will pop up once they're finished with the test. You can just leave it at the default, or you can put in a specific message. There is the option up here to shuffle the question order. I'm going to tell you why I don't do that. We unchecked the option over here in general that requires them to be logged in. If we check this box that shuffles the question order, then they could be 10 questions into your quiz and have to type their name, and that can kind of break a kid's concentration. So I don't check that, but then now there's this new thing over here called quizzes, and I can click there, and you see I get a toggle switch here. I can make this a quiz. So if I click that, it just turns that on. and then it gives me quiz options. So I can release this grade immediately after each submission or later after manual review. I always leave this on immediately after each submission, just because the whole point of this is to make it quick and easy for you and to not add one more thing to your plate. So if we do later after manual review, you'll have to review it and then allow it to be viewed, the grade to be seen. And so, you know, one more step for you. Let's cut that out and just immediately after each submission show that. And then below here I say respondents can see missed questions, correct answers, and point values. I leave those checked and I go ahead and hit save. So now my Google form is a quiz, right? It's a Google quiz. So we're there, but you say, okay, well, that's great. How do we decide what the right answers are? How do we tell it what the right answers are? We're doing all this work. How's it going to grade itself? Well, in Google Quizzes, if I select a quiz question, you can see now I have a new option that wasn't here before down here in the left-hand corner called Answer Key. And so I can click on Answer Key, and then I can choose the correct answer. So I'm going to say the best movie of all time is The Godfather, and I'm going to say that's worth 20 points. I can tell it how many points it's worth right here. Then I just click on Edit Question again, and it goes back, but you see it leaves this green little check mark there. And Answer Key, now it tells me how many points that's worth. If I select this one, I can go through an Answer Key, and I can say, well, the best place to eat is, well, my favorite place is Ted's. So I'm going to go ahead and say that's worth 20 points. And so now it's worth 20 points, and we've got the correct answer marked. Who's the best player in the NBA? I'm going to go to the Answer Key again. I'm going to say this one's worth 20 points. So the best player in the NBA is Russell Westbrook. It's also not Kevin Durant. And so what's really cool about this is that as we select these or mark these, you can see I can mark more than one. So I can have multiple right answers. I'm going to go down to the next one. Go to Sooners or Cowboys. I'm going to click Answer Key. This one's also worth 20 points. And then I can say, yeah, Sooners is the right answer. Also, I don't care or not Texas Cowboys is the only wrong answer. I'm sorry if you're an OSU fan, but that's just the way it goes. According to me, when you make the quiz, you can make the right answers. Best book of all time. I like To Kill a Mockingbird. It's one of my favorites. So I'm going to go to Answer Key, select To Kill a Mockingbird, give this a point value, and then done. So now all of my questions have an answer marked and a point value. And if I hit preview now, you can see out next to each question it says how many points it's worth. So as my students take this quiz, they can see how many points each question is worth. So the cool part about this is I can also offer feedback to people. So down here I could say Answer Key, and I can add answer feedback. And so I can say incorrect answers are going to get this. If they select this, we're going to say, you know, To Kill a Mockingbird is the obvious right answer because I'm making the quiz. And then correct answers are going to get, you know, correct. Don't you love Harper Lee? And so I can hit save. And then feedback for answers, you can see it even shows me the feedback back down here, and I can delete this or mark it correct. So this means after they submit the test, if they got it right or wrong, they're going to get an answer. So I can tell them why this is the correct answer or why that was an incorrect answer. So you can do that too, provide some feedback for your students. So once I'm done, the other thing that you might want to be able to do is you might want to, so we've built a quiz, we've got a way to find out who the students are, we've put in the correct answers, we've provided feedback. Some people like to change the way it looks. Some purple's not everybody's color. So if you come up here to the color palette in the right-hand corner, you can just click on this and you can change the color to whatever you like. They even allow you to upload a photo. So you can upload a photo of your own, or they have themes that you can choose from. They even have some of these that are living themes that I think is pretty cool. So you can actually see movement Back there you see the water flowing. I'm just going to select a basic color though. I'll select green. And then, so now that I've selected a color, I need to share this with my students and actually have them take the quiz. So I'm going to take the quiz really quick. I'm going to hit the preview button, and I'm going to take it a few times as a few fake people, and then we'll grade our quiz. All right, so I've taken it 3 times as 3 different students, and then you can see after a student submits, they get your feedback that you left, so which was please be still and read chapter 2 in your book, and then they can immediately view their score. So they view their score. You can see I can go down here. It tells me I got 100 of 100 as Dwight Schrute, the student, and so you can see it showing me, yes, The Godfather was the best movie of all time. The best place to eat was Ted's. The best player in the NBA is Russell Westbrook. Sooners or Cowboys, it obviously is Sooners. You can see best book of all time, To Kill a Mockingbird. You see now it gives the feedback that we left correct. Don't you love Harper Lee? And so they immediately get that score. So how do you now get to see the student score? So I'm going to close out these quizzes that we took. And we're back here in our editing window, and you can see over here now I have responses that are 3. And so if I look here, you can see it's giving me an average of our students, the average score and the range. The lowest was 40, the highest was 100. And I can scroll down and see on each question just kind of how a quick glimpse of how the class answered if I go one down. And then, so I can see that overall as a summary, or I can also see individual responses. So if I go to individual, I can look here and go to Google Quiz for online training. You see it's there, and it's showing me Indiana Jones, indiana.jones@thetempleofdoom.com, right? And I can see all of his answers and what he got wrong. And you can see, oh, the wrong answer, the correct answer was Ted's. It will show him that when he's finished taking the quiz. It shows me as well. And so as I page through, I can instantly see all the kids' scores. And then I can also, up here in the top right-hand corner, there's this little green icon. It's a spreadsheet icon, and I can click this and say, hey, create a new spreadsheet for Google Quiz. So we're going to create it. And it will open this up, and you can see I've got my kids' names and their scores right next to them. So I know how many points out of 100 or whatever that I did, and so I can instantly get a roster with all the scores. It makes it easy for me to enter into my grade book. So I don't have to do any grading here. All my grading is already done. It's just viewing what that grade is. And so what's really great about this is over here there's these 3 little dots. I can click on those, and then I can unlink the form, and so where it doesn't work anymore, or I can delete all of the responses. So deleting all the responses, let's say I give this quiz out this year, I can, after we're done with it this year and I've recorded all the grades, I can delete all the responses, and now I have a blank quiz to then use for my kids next semester or next year. So it's not like I have to make one of these all the time. I make it once and I'm done. I've already got all the correct answers marked. I can delete my responses and then give that quiz again. So that, in a nutshell, is Google Quizzes. That's Google Quizzes. It's a great tool from Google, and I hope that this video helped you understand a little bit more about how that works and how you can use it in your classroom. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. My email address is ben.parker@opsrc.net, or you can find me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is Riley Richter. So if you're on social media, hit me up, or if you want to, just shoot me an email. Would love to answer any questions that you might have. Thanks for watching.